I still haven't talked to anyone who applied more than me. I did 240 something programs. Yeah,
240?
240.
Oh,
I
wow.
maxed out
Oh.
my credit card. All right, guys. So welcome back to another video. And today, what we're gonna have with us is Hannah, one of my classmates, and I've just let her tell you guys about herself and what she matched into. And go ahead.
All right. Hey, guys. I'm Hannah. Thanks for having me. I matched into a preliminary surgery position at Ascension Providence in Michigan, affiliated with Michigan State University. I am really excited. Yeah, I have no ties to Michigan at all. So something that people kind of ask me, and something I was under the impression as well, is that maybe you have a better chance of matching, where you do your rotations, or maybe it's only possible to match where you do your rotations. But I did nothing in Michigan. I have no ties, and I'm going there. So it's definitely not impossible. So that's something that I would have liked to have known before. I did all my rotations in New York. I had several interviews in New York and New Jersey, but it worked out this way.
That's awesome. Yeah. So you did most of your rotation in New York, and you didn't do any rotation in Michigan,
I
and then
didn't. I
and you
didn't
matched
do
into
anything in
Michigan.
Michigan.
That's awesome.
Yep, no ties at all. So
I
I've
mean, I
had
guess it's
several.
kind of. Are you originally from New York, or are you in the area at all, in the northeast region at all?
No,
No.
I'm from Atlanta.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe like because New York's kind of close to Michigan, so maybe they kind of like have a thing going on there too. But I don't know.
Yeah.
Are you U.S.
But
You from Atlanta, so you USIMG then, yeah?
yes,
Okay.
correct. Yeah.
Okay. And did you do apply?
No, just surgery.
Just surgery? Oh, awesome. You want
Hmm.
to just kind of take us through your process and how many programs did you apply to?
Oh man, I applied. I applied to over 100
Yeah.
programs. Yeah. Advice that was given to me, especially since I was not dual applying, was to apply very broadly.
Okay.
Yeah, I know some people that, especially surgery people, normally do surgery and EM as a backup, or I didn't want EM. I knew I wouldn't be happy doing it, so I just kind of went all in for surgery. And I got preliminary versus categorical, so I mean, I was a little disappointed about that. Not disappointed, but I'm happy I matched. But
Yeah.
obviously, if I want to be a surgeon, I have to do a categorical residency. But it's just a year, and then I'll do all this again next year and hope for a categorical. But
Well,
I think it's
for people
a
who
step
doesn't
in the
know,
right
like, what's the
direction.
difference between the preliminary and categorical?
Yeah, so there's a couple of preliminary positions, like if you're going into anesthesia or if you're going into radiology, a preliminary or a transitional year is required. For surgery, it's not. It's just that surgery is very competitive, especially as an IMG. And so you can apply for these 1 year preliminary positions and categorical, which are the full 5 or 6 year positions. And if you get the categorical, the 5 or 6 year, that's great, you're set. But if you match the preliminary, which is 1 year, you have to do the match again next year. But the point is just to go and, prove yourself. And it's like an audition rotation for a whole year and just prove that you can do it and hope for the best next year. So it's definitely not ideal, but I know a lot of people, especially SGU, that have done it and it's worked out for them.
Awesome. Yeah, I never really kind of like understood the preliminary and the categorical like position stuff, so it's good that you explained that. So essentially, you're gonna have to go through the whole match process again next year then,
That's correct.
and
Yeah.
try
There
to
are
get
some.
like a second year spot, or
You can, yeah, you can try to get a second year spot, or you might get a first year spot. There's ways to go outside of the match as well. So that's always an option. But I think you have to go through ERAS, do the applications, and then if you match somewhere, well, it's not really match, but if you're accepted outside of the match, then you withdraw from ERAS. So there's different options.
okay.
You don't have to go through ERAS again. But I think that's probably your best shot, to go ahead and apply and try to interview and all of that. But then I'm definitely going to try to look for things outside,
Outside
of the match. Yeah,
ERAS
I
match.
think,
Yeah.
yeah, just outside of the match. And then if you do get a position, great, you're secured, you find that out before match day, then you just have to withdraw from the match. So there's options. It's definitely not the end of the line for
Gotcha.
prelim. The first time I heard about prelim, I was terrified and thought, you just hear horror stories about people that match prelim and then they don't get a categorical position. That obviously can happen, but just have to go and prove yourself. And the good thing, I feel like more and more programs are learning about SGU students and how hard we work. And I think it's definitely doable. Something interesting about this program that I'm going to is they don't take any IMGs directly as categorical. You have to have done a prelim year first. So that's kind of the hope with this program, is that I'll do the prelim and then get categorical next year.
Okay. Do you know if your program is, like, do they tend to kind of take you guys in after the prelims, or?
Yeah. One of the categorical interns was prelim last year. And some of the prelims that they take they are going on to anesthesia, or they're not even trying for surgery.
Gotcha. Okay.
So so the prelim position isn't really made for what I'm using it for. It's really made for the people that need the transitional year. It's just kind of like, it's better to get this than not match at all. But
Gotcha.
But yeah, the people that do need anesthesia and the people do need a transitional year or a prelim year for anesthesia and radiology.
Mm-hmm.
So some of my co-interns won't even be my competition.
Gotcha. No, I didn't know that. That makes sense. I can see that.
Yeah, it's a little confusing.
Well, I mean, like, not going off from the surgery, going from that. So are those people who's like doing anesthesia and radiology and stuff, are they gonna have to go through the match again, like, next year too, or?
So it's a little confusing. I know for them, they get two matches. They get a match to a prelim. I don't know if it's called the correct term. I don't know if it's prelim or transitional year. And then they get a match to their anesthesia program or their radiology program. So they can actually be partially matched. They can match to one and not the other. It's all very confusing. I don't really understand it.
Gotcha.
But
Yeah,
you can't do that for
we
surgery.
can ask someone who kind of go through
Exactly.
that.
Exactly. It's a little confusing. The people I know were fully matched though.
Okay.
Thankfully. So they get the email on Monday saying you're fully matched. You don't have to solve all of that.
That's good. And how do you make your application list, like, of the 100+ programs? How do you go about doing that?
I actually used Master Resident. I found it to be very helpful.
Me too.
You did? Yeah. I really liked it. I felt like it was very
help. I made my list in probably 2 hours, and that was it. That's all I had to do.
Yes. I felt like it was very user friendly. I felt like it was very reasonably priced. It was nice to be able to see if they're IMG friendly. You were able to filter programs based on your scores, and if they take IMGs, I think it saved me a bunch of time.
Okay. Well, you want to kind of go a little bit more into the process and, like, the program itself, and just for people who doesn't know what it is.
Sure. So for Master Resident, you are able to look at all the programs. There's filters. You can it asks you questions at the beginning. It asks you your step 1 and step 2 scores. Well, I guess with now step 1 being passed, but like some programs will only take a certain step 1 score or a certain step 2 score. They'll have a minimum. So you put all of your information in, and then it filters out the programs that are not applicable to you, or if they don't take any IMGs at all, it'll filter that out. So it's very overwhelming to just go and try to research programs on your own.
Yeah.
There's hundreds and hundreds of programs. So just to be able to answer a few simple questions and have it make the list for you is, I thought, very, very beneficial.
Yeah. No, for sure. Definitely help a lot of time. Well, definitely a time saver for me, and just make everything kind of like more streamlined, the application process. I mean, I have like a separate videos on it in my channel. You guys want to watch more about the Metro Resin thing. But yeah, moving on. How many interviews do you get? You don't mind sharing?
Sure. I got 10, I believe. 10 interviews. Yeah. So definitely not as much as I was hoping for, over 100 applications, but it was just kind of one of those things. My step scores were fine, and I felt like I had a strong ERAS. It's just so competitive.
Yeah,
unfortunately.
Surgery is definitely one of the more competitive, specialty. And then, coming from SGU and like it's a USIMG, do you feel like anything you have done like better, or like really kind of advice you have for people who want to go into like the more like competitive specialty?
Yeah, I would have said before step one was pass fail that step one is absolutely the most critical thing. I think that's really what program directors look at first, honestly. But now with step one being pass fail, I think all that weight's going to be on step two,
Yeah.
especially for the IMGs. You know, if program directors are just seeing a huge long list, everyone passed, well, they have to compare us by something. So I think you're really going to have to blow step two out of the water. And unfortunately, I think this is when, research and extracurricular activities are going to become more important because we just really have to prove ourselves, with step one being pass fail now. So just really, I know it's easier said than done. Do well on step two, but I mean, I think that really is vital in order to be able to stand out against our US colleagues.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely agree. And one of my conspiracy theory is that because they make step one pass fail, is I think they're gonna move a lot of like stuff like subjects and like contents from step one. They kind of like move it over to step two. So you're still gonna get tested on step one stuff, but they're gonna like be more spread out. So that's my conspiracy theory.
Yeah, and also study for step one like it's not pass fail because I truly think that having a really strong foundation for step one, it's going to help you in clinicals, it's going to help you with shelves, and then that's going to help you prepare for step two. So honestly, don't just be taking practice tests and say, "Oh, I'm passing," and take it. Really, really know the content and study for it like it's still graded. I
Yeah.
think would be my advice for that.
Yeah, I feel like because when I took step two, because even though after you done step one, you're like, oh yeah, we're never gonna touch stuff from step one again. But even when I was studying for step two and taking step two, I'm like, this is like just like step one. It's just like it's literally the same content except a little bit extra step where you like management and like
Yeah,
you plan and stuff. So but it felt like step one to me, just like with like more information, more steps. So I don't know. I don't know if they changed
agreed.
it. When we take it compared to people in the past, just like because like when we took it for our
Hmm.
class is they I think they changed it in the December, like November, December off. Like in like 20,
Yes.
they like kind of revamped step two stuff. So
Yeah.
I don't know. We didn't take the old ones, we don't know, but I feel like they kind of put more stuff on in there. That's why I said my conspiracy theory.
Agree. I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think having a really strong foundation for step one, I mean, that's vital for doing well in step two.
Perfect.
And you're in clinicals, you're super busy. When you're studying for step one, you're dedicated, you don't have anything else going on. You're studying for step one. But when you're studying for step two, you're in clinicals, you're at the hospital 10, 12 hours a day and having to come home and study. So having that strong foundation, this is not the time to be learning step one material.
Yeah, 100%. Um, do you do a lot of like aways and like audition rotations? Because I know like a lot of some students kind of put a lot of emphasis on doing those aways and audition rotations, especially for a more competitive specialty. What was your experience on that?
Yeah, like I said, I did all of my clinicals in New York. I only did rotations at Lincoln and the Bronx and at Brooklyn Hospital. And all of my interviews were I got one for Lincoln. I didn't get a surgery interview for Brooklyn. I didn't do surgery there though. I only did family med at Brooklyn. But all my rotations, all my interviews, I had interviews in Georgia, Florida, Texas, Michigan, Ohio, Jersey, New York. I mean, all over. It was so random. So, I mean, I
That
definitely
was
don't
on the
think
East
it.
Coast though.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, I
East
mean, did
Coast
you?
and
Okay. Well, I mean, I forgot to ask you this when you make your application. Did you apply to any West Coast program? Like,
yeah, yeah. I applied all over.
okay,
Yeah, I didn't get any love from California or the Midwest, but I applied.
okay.
I
So
applied
you have
all
most
over.
of like application. You get more interview invitation East Coast. You
Hmm.
apply all over. You use Metro Resident. How do you? I forgot to ask you this when you make the thing. How do you kind of like pick programs? Because you did like 100 something programs. I'm sure there were like way more than that all over the countries. Yeah.
Yeah.
So how do you kind of you know decide those 100 something programs just by states or?
Yeah, by location, I didn't really care where I went, honestly. That's why I applied so broadly. But but yeah, I really just used my master resident list and just applied very broadly.
And
But I don't know why I didn't get
all of the
love from the West
100%
Coast.
rating on the Metro Resident you apply to?
Oh yeah, no, yeah. Oh yeah, it gives you the compatibility score. I always
Yeah.
felt like it was like a dating site or something, giving me my compatibility
Yeah.
percentage. But yeah, some that were Some were 70%. I tried to do the ones that were, 70, 80% and up. The ones that were any lower than that, I didn't, there was a reason you weren't compatible, whether it was your score, they didn't take IMGs or whatever. So I think it's really interesting how it computes that score. And I don't know. I don't really have advice for how many to apply to. That's just what I did.
Yeah.
I can't really speak to if that was the right thing to do or if I should have done more or less. Yeah,
No.
I don't know.
I still haven't talked to anyone who applied more than me. I did 240 something programs. Yeah.
240?
240.
Oh,
I maxed out
wow.
my credit card. All
Oh,
the credit on
no.
there, all the limit, definitely maxed it out. So
Yeah. I mean, hey, you matched. I think at the end of the day, it's worth it if you apply smart. If you feel like that's what you need to do it and you match. So
yeah.
you did the right thing for you.
Um. So not a lot of away audition rotation. You did mostly at two main hospital. Do you
Yeah.
know anyone who did like away rotations? But not at like SGU affiliate hospital, because I heard of students doing this.
Yeah, I have. For surgery, I know some people that did some audition rotations. I don't think they got interviews. I mean,
Oh yeah.
yeah, I don't know how at Lincoln for surgery, if you rotate there, core or audition rotation, you get an interview.
Okay.
So some programs, and that's why people want to do the audition rotations, right? Because some programs will give you, the courtesy interview or whatever they call it. But at the end of the day, I don't, my interviews were just all so random and I didn't do rotations there. I think my step one score was strong and my personal statement was strong. And I think at the end of the day, that's what gets you in the door. I mean, obviously going and doing well and showing the program director that you work hard doesn't hurt. But with COVID, I just couldn't afford to be traveling around
Yeah.
and a lot of hospitals weren't taking, students that didn't do their cores there. So I just did everything
Yeah.
in New York. But yeah, in an ideal world, yeah, for sure. Especially if there's a program you're really, really interested in, 100% do a rotation there. But I don't feel that it's necessary to get an interview or to match there.
Gotcha.
But yeah.
What was the hardest part of the application process for you?
Oh man, I think just I want to say the personal statement
Yeah.
because it just you want it to be perfect, right? And it's so tough. It's never going to be perfect. I had several people edit it and read it and give me feedback. I really think that was really important. I feel like I spent a lot of time on it and I feel like it paid off. I actually had a lot of program directors and attendings when I was interviewing talk about my personal statement and say that it was strong and that it stood out. And I think that it was worth the amount of time that I spent on it.
That's excellent.
But it's tough. It's awkward.
Yeah.
How do I stand out? Most med students, we all have the same experiences. We want to help people. It's very hard to write something that's unique and not cliche but still honest. Because we do want to help people. So yeah, so it's tough. It's tricky. But I think definitely spend the time on that. Hire someone to read it. I have a friend who's a professional editor. She edited it for me. So I think that's something that's definitely worth spending the time and maybe a little bit of money on to have it approved.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. I that's something I didn't really think. When did you start it on your personal statement? During third year or?
I started really early. Yeah, I started during my third year.
Okay. Yeah, that's something I didn't really think about. That and I think you're right that it would play a pretty big um factor in
Hmm.
giving you interviews as medical students, just how to stand out from other medical students. You know.
Yeah, I definitely think it's something that um, I don't think it's going to be looked at before your scores, though. And I know everyone says you're more than a score, but
Yeah.
at the end of the day, they do have cutoffs and there are filters for these kind of
What?
things. So if you
I
have a great
100%
personal
agree.
statement, if you have a great personal statement and nobody reads it because you were filtered out, I mean, that really sucks. So you got to have the strong scores. And then once you get their attention with that, you kind of sell them with a personal statement.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's something that people, not that they don't think it's important, but it's like, yeah, it's just a personal statement. But I really think that needs to have more of a focus on it than it
Yeah.
does.
No, I think with the score cutoff, especially with, again with like more competitive, especially like that's definitely be
Yes.
playing into a factor. Um, I know for general surgery, definitely because I know for family medicine, they do like a PD interview at the end of every season. They kind of like rank at like how important something is. Like I'm sure you've seen
Oh,
those
I
charts,
see.
right? But
Oh,
yeah,
yes,
it was
yes.
interesting for like family medicine. It was like, oh, personal statements actually like up there, like above on top before all the
I
scores
bet.
and
Yeah.
everything and extracurriculars.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I thought for sure like general surgery, like step one score was definitely higher up. So
Yeah.
get your scores and
Yes.
personal statements important. Any scheduling, interviews, tips and tricks that you kind of ran into that you want to share?
Well, I mean, with it being virtual, it wasn't too crazy for scheduling. I don't know if it's going back to in person. I don't know if they've announced that yet,
Do
but
you think it should stay
I didn't
virtual or in person?
only because it saves so much money not having to travel. I mean, obviously you want to see these places, and that was something that was hard when I was doing my rank list.
Yeah.
I talked to these people for a couple hours over Zoom, and everyone can act like a happy family for a couple hours over Zoom. But to not be there and see the facility and really get a vibe for the program, I think that's tough, and that definitely would have been. Um, I think that's important for the interviews.
Hmm.
But just if they are virtual next year, just make the best of it and just kind of go with your gut. I think you can, if you're getting a weird vibe or something about a program, I think, you have to go with that. Even though you're doing it virtually, you still have to just kind of go with how you're feeling. But yeah, it's tough. But as far as scheduling, I didn't really have any issues with it being virtual. You didn't have to travel the day before or day after or anything. So I didn't have any scheduling issues.
Perfect. Yeah, no, I was talking to Kashish um last weekend. Dude, he attended like 50 interviews in the season. I was like, dude, that's I don't even know how you can find time to fit that many interviews in it like in all those months. It's crazy. It's absolutely
I know.
ridiculous.
Yeah,
He's a
that is
monster.
crazy.
Um, so how do you talk about the rank list? How do you what's the most important thing that you factor you use to making your rank list?
Yeah. Again, that's so tough. It's so tough, and it's tough to explain because you have to take so many things into account. The location and the vibes that you got, and is it for surgery? Some are 6-year programs, and they have a research year built into them. Some are 5 years, some are 5 year, but you have the option of having a 6 year. So, it just comes down to really what do you want? Is location important to you? Is research important to you? And I think, especially with surgery residency, 5, 6 years, it's so long. Obviously, you want to be happy in the place that you're going to be in. And I honestly didn't care where I go. That wasn't a huge thing for me. But but yeah, I think it really comes down to what is important to you, and everyone knows what that is, whether that's being close to family or being in a certain part of the country or research. I'm not sure about other specialties, if they have research years built in, but stuff like that. You just have to find what's important for you.
What was it for you?
Um, Honestly, none of those things really mattered. I just wanted
You just wanted-
I just wanted a job. I honestly didn't care where I went. I didn't care.
well, how did you decide
Um,
one and two?
I, I guess just vibe of the program.
Of the
There were
interview?
just some that I had really good conversations. I would get off and say, I could really see myself working with this person. It really just came down to meaningful talks that I had with people, and that I felt were genuine. And some interviews you're talking to people and you just feel like they're just going through the motions, not really connecting, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But when you do talk to someone and you do feel a connection and you do feel like you could work with them, it's hard to explain, but it's really just the vibe that you get about
Yeah,
the
no.
program.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
The program I matched into, that's like I had the worst. Like for me, like we were talking about like what's important, right? So I mean, for
Right.
me, when I make the rank list, it was like definitely location because all my family was in California, and my wife
Sure.
probably want to be back in California. So, but the program I matched to is in California, but it was like I really like um some of the programs in Michigan that I actually interviewed at was like had the best vibes. I love talking to the PD and the APD, and the faculty members like super nice, and we have talk about books and everything else. And I love the interviews there. And then actually the program that I matched into at in California is actually I had the worst interviewing experience. And yeah,
Oh
yeah, it's okay. They are accepting me as
no.
residency, so even if they see this, I don't care. But
Oh,
let
that's
them
funny.
use this to improve the interviewing experience. But it's definitely one of the worst. Um, but yeah,
Oh
so
no.
for me, making that rank list was ultimately location. So, but I know some people
Okay.
who
Yeah. Yeah.
just go off like interview vibe because essentially you're right that it's gonna be the next 3 4 years of for you like 4 or 5 years of your life, and it's be make sure that you work well with the faculty members and the residents there. So yeah,
Yeah. Exactly. And just see how the residents interact with each other because, like, you can tell even over. We
I
would
don't
do the
know. I feel
virtual
like it's so
meet
hard
and
over
greets, and
Zoom.
they.
Over Zoom,
I
like
don't know. I just felt like you could tell if people are being genuine or not. I don't know. Especially the residents, just how they. I don't know. You can just tell when people are
yeah. I don't know. Like, it's
really
like for
friends.
me, it's like all the meet and greet for me with all the residents. It's like start blending in. It was like the same every time. People ask the same questions, and it's like yeah. But
The
that's
virtual
one
meet and
thing.
greets
Like
are
what you
tough.
what
Yeah,
you said with the virtual thing. Like that's why in person be like better for that aspect because you don't really know. It's hard to see the interaction over Zoom. I think the only
it is.
one session would kind of like threw a red flag for me and I like ranked the program low was because of that. Meet and greet with the residents. So you're right. I mean, it does kind of help. Um,
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah.
So what would you do differently if you can go back? Anything?
I don't know. I
I
don't
mean, it
think
doesn't
so.
have to.
I
Yeah.
mean,
I mean,
yeah, I
you
don't.
did everything you can, and
Yeah, I think despite only getting the 10 interviews, I mean, I don't think I should have applied to more or less. I think that's what was right for
yeah.
me. But, it's hard to say, but I don't think I think I'm happy with my application and the interviews. And yeah, I personally don't think I would change anything.
Yeah, that's good. No regrets.
No regrets.
Any last words and like tips for upcoming students applying? Fellow SGU students.
Yeah, I think just don't hesitate to reach out. You can reach out to me. I'm at Future Miss Doctor on Instagram. I'm happy to answer anything that I can. I couldn't have gotten through this process without asking questions to people that had been through it. So I think that's important is don't go through it alone. There's no stupid questions. Um, so that was something I feel like sometimes we feel like it's a stupid question or you don't want to ask it but I think it's really important just to, have a mentor, have someone you can ask questions to. Don't go through the process alone. And as far as the application, we talked about the importance of personal statement. I would definitely advise people to spend time on that, have it edited, read by, a professional. And then as far as interviews, um, just have fun, be yourself. That's something that was said to me. And I think honestly, that was the best piece of advice. Don't try to be someone that you're not during the interview. Don't, because I feel like even virtual, even over Zoom, I feel like people can tell if you're being genuine or not. And if you're talking about something that you're really passionate about, that's going to come through. And if you're making up that you're passionate about research, I mean, don't do that. If research isn't important to you, don't say that as find the program that is a good fit for you. You don't have to pretend that you like it or don't like it because that program focuses on it or doesn't focus on it. So honestly, just be yourself, have fun. I actually really enjoyed interviews. I really enjoyed talking to people. I felt like I had meaningful conversations. And so that was definitely something. What else? I was thinking of one more thing. I can't think of it. But and then as far as ranking, just find what's important to you. Oh, I know what I was going to say. As far as ranking, you hear this over and over, but it's so much easier said than done, is to rank the program how you like the program and not how you think they view you. And that advice was given to me. I tried to take that advice. And then I'm sitting there as I'm doing my rank list going, do they like me? Are they going to rank me high? So just put those apart. Try to separate that and just think honestly, just make the rank list in the way that you would want to attend the programs because the algorithm is in the applicant's favor. So just rank it how you want to rank it and what programs you think you would be happy at, and try not to think of how they're going to rank you because you'll just drive yourself crazy. So
Gotcha. That's perfect. Yeah, thank you, Hannah. Thanks for your time.
yeah, thank
Everybody,
you.
I'm
It's
gonna
good to
make
see
sure
you.
I plug her Instagram handle in the description, and you guys can go find her, add her on Instagram, follow her. If you ask any questions, I know she's very responsive, and she's definitely more active on social media than me. You gotta change your name from Miss Future Doctor to just Miss Doctor now.
Oh yeah, future Miss Surgeon. Yeah, I changed it to future Miss Surgeon.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's come true now, so you don't it's not in the future anymore. Yeah, no,
that's
I
right.
was
Yeah,
saying,
that's true.
just
I
one
need to
last
change
time
again.
to end it. It's like I was looking, the stat for USIMG is 60% match rate. This for the last cycle, 60%. So USIMG, and for foreign
Oh,
IMG it was 50%. So I was just saying, like me and you, like anyone who
oh
matched,
wow,
is like we're part of 60%. And if you match, you should be proud of what you did and be happy with it. And
absolutely.
um, it's definitely a blessing. So
Yes,
with that, thanks
absolutely.
for watching, guys. Make sure you guys subscribe and like for more. Definitely gonna have plenty more coming up, and again, different specialty. So thanks again, Hannah. Until next time.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you can.